Hey friends, I'm back again, and I was tagged by Challenge Thyself to do the My Pleasure book tag. And I've got notes because I kind of kept losing myself in my thoughts. So without further ado, I will leave a link below to Challenge Thyself's video because it was wonderful. So, the first book, Think, a book that made you think hard. And for this one, I chose The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. And this is easily the most beautiful book I've ever read and probably the most difficult book I've ever read. I believe I had a bookmark every different place there was to have one between the book and all the index and appendix and the section on how to pronounce the different letter combinations and everything. The story of Beren and Luthien is in this book. The story about how the dwarves were made. Those are just a couple of my favorite things. But my most favorite thing is the very beginning, the creation story. And that's what really makes me think a lot, because between this biblical text, the Big Bang, sound is the spark of creation. In the Bible it says that God spoke, let there be light, and there was. In the Big Bang, there are, videos and things out there talking about how there was like this constant humming, as all of this was happening. And I wanted to just read a paragraph in here, because what happens is the omniscient being, the great one, Iluvatar, he basically kind of gives a piece of his thought to each of these lesser beings, like angels, I guess, and gives in it, and it's a theme. So they have one part of his thought, a theme of it, and so they use that and create music. But when they were come into the void, Iluvatar said to them, "Behold your music." And he showed to them a vision, giving to them sight where before there was only hearing. And they saw a new world made visible before them, and it was globed amid the void, and it was sustained therein, but was not of it. And as they looked and wondered, this world began to unfold its history, and it seemed to them that it lived and grew. And when the Ainur had gazed for a while and were silent, Iluvatar said again, "Behold your music. This is your minstrelsy, and each of you shall find contained herein, amid the design that I set before you, all those things which it may seem that he himself devised or added. And thou, Melkor, wilt discover all the secret thoughts of thy mind, and wilt perceive that they are but a part of the whole and tributary to its glory." So it was their music and their song that created everything. They're singing, and there are plants growing and rivers forming and mountains growing. I just love it. Love it. And I think that's just so interesting. I think that he painted a more fantastical and romanticized version of Genesis. And then to think that even science can say that there was sound amidst all of this stuff, bang and coming together, and all these, physical forces of gravity and all this stuff, there was this humming. I think that is fascinating. Okay, so my next book, Love, a book that broke or mended your heart. And for this is a book that's been around for a really long time, but I only recently read it, probably 3 years ago or so, and that is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And this kind of, makes me think of the Silmarillion also, when the story of how the dwarves were made. They were made by one of the Valinor, and Iluvatar knew that he was doing this in secret and allowed it to happen. but he wanted something that was not of himself, that he could love and teach and pass on his craftsmanship to. And this poor guy had just the opposite. His creator was totally self-serving, didn't care about him, abandoned him, shunned him, hunted him down. As a mom, it just broke my heart because, he was so thirsty for knowledge and wanted to be good. And he just needed someone to love him and teach him and care about him. So, that has become one of my favorite books. Okay, and the next one is Eat, a book that nourishes you. I've talked about this book a lot because it really has made such an impact on me. But William Paul Young's Eve, the way he depicted God just has helped me picture him in a totally different way, and it has helped me so much with all the stuff that's going on. Yet again, to know that there, who I feel is my creator, if I can realize that I can't do everything myself and just turn and face him, he's there with open arms, ready to love me, take care of me, comfort me, whatever I need. And that just makes me feel so good. All right, Laugh, a book that brought a little comic relief. I had a really hard time thinking of a book that just made me laugh. But I'm really looking forward to doing the Half Halloween-a-thon, and one of the prompts was to read a book and then watch a movie or whatnot about it, and I chose Goosebumps. And something I did last year that I want to do every year is read a Goosebumps book. And if either with like the little TV episodes, or if they have like a movie, which this one I think they have an hour-long special for this one. So read the book, watch that, and then listen to Welcome to Deadcast with Daniel and Matthew Scott Montgomery. If they're giving out PhDs for Goosebumps, these guys deserve it because they know absolutely everything there is to know about Goosebumps. And their podcast is laugh out loud hilarious. Like podcasts and audiobooks, that's like my to and from work thing. And so I'm literally in my car just dying laughing, and I'm like, people are looking at me like, you weirdo. And I'm like, you're the one missing out, because these guys are just absolutely hysterical. And it's just a lot of fun for them to sit there and dissect, well, this is how it happened in the book, but they did this in the episode. And then, they're poking fun at different things. And it is so funny. Like if you're needing a good laugh, you need to check out Welcome to Deadcast. It is great. Okay. Next, Sex, a book that explores or contains sexuality that doesn't make you cringe. This is just, I think, one of the greatest love stories that I've ever read, and it is Alan Moore's run on Swamp Thing. And I was trying to find, like, the one that I really wanted to show is the one issue I don't have. I believe it's number 35. But it has a great picture of them in an embrace and kissing. So Alec Holland, there was an accident or whatever, and he becomes the Swamp Thing, and he's in love with this lady Abigail. And, once she, comes to terms with the fact that he is Swamp Thing, they get back together. And I'm trying to find in this one, I'm sorry, where she eats these tuber things that he has attached to him. And I guess, like, she kind of starts, like, hallucinating or whatnot. And then, like, he's copping a feel. And then, obviously, ended up being a good experience for her. And I totally lost the place in this book as well. That just shows them standing together and in an embrace. And it was just, he's a big weird plant thing and all, but Alan Moore made it work. Like, it's kind of like Jim and Pam or Ross and Rachel. You're just like, get back together. Like, just, y'all, come on. And my favorite part, which is in the issue that is there's like a court case going on and Abigail's there, and Alec gave her a rose, and through that rose he's able to come into the courtroom. And so there's like this big, you know, it's like, it seems like almost like an explosion, you know, like haha, here I am, you know, but then there's roses everywhere, you know, so it's just kind of, you know, it seems like I remember her being like kind of sad and everything, and it was just beautiful and romantic, you know, like he gave her this rose, and then like he comes and there's just roses everywhere. I loved it. So it's like a big weird swamp slimy man and this beautiful human lady that Alan Moore made it work. I love it. It's like, you know, I'll take Swamp Thing. Rest, a book that gave you peace, reflection, or just calms you down. And for this one, this is just one of my all-time favorite books ever. Wizard's First Rule, and really it's the whole series. It's the whole series. I love, I can't remember how many books were already out, but they did a prequel called Dead of Bones. These are by Terry Goodkind, and I love all these books so much. So it's just, I don't know, it gives me a lot of comfort because I enjoyed reading these so much, and it was during the time when I was a stay-at-home mom, and I miss that so much. So much. But yeah, he does such a good job with these characters and goes so in depth with them that I feel like they're my friends. And so I'm going on the adventure with them, and I just love it. Even though I know everything that's going to happen, I absolutely love it. And so it's just a huge comfort thing, because then I think about, you know, my kids being small and being at home with them and how wonderful that was. And obviously I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. Well, Ozzy decided that he would be totally freaked out, and so he had to jump and knock my phone down. Okay, last book, and hopefully I downloaded an editing thing, and hopefully I can get that video and this video together and cut out the part where I flipped the camera around and everything. But the last is Experience, a book that introduced you to a new subject or shifted your perspective. And this took me a little bit, but then I remembered I picked up this book at a used bookstore called People of the Wolf, and it's by Michael and Catherine Gear, and it's about when people were coming across the Bering Strait in North America. And at the beginning, these archaeologists are trying to stop I guess some excavation or something, so they can do a dig, you know, and not lose all these artifacts and stuff. And this book introduced me to historical fiction, and I absolutely love it. It was just so detailed about their lives, and just so many very specific things. And I absorbed it. I don't know how many of those I read, and you know, you've got to kind of purge and make room for stuff. So I don't have the books anymore. Maybe with the editing thing I can insert a picture. But it was just great. So I mean, I've read so many other books where, you know, it's a fictionalized thing of something historical or whatever, but the more detail they put in it, I absolutely love it. I love knowing what their jobs were like, what kind of clothes they wore, not just the food they ate, but you know, well, how was it prepared, you know, things like that. Anne Rice book, you know, about the missing parts of Jesus's life, but there are times where she's describing the women coming together and preparing the meals and stuff, and how they had a carpentry business, and how the men would go out, you know, and getting customers and procuring work and stuff like that, and the materials that they would buy and all of this kind of stuff. And I love stuff like that. Absolutely love it. I just think it's so fascinating to know the daily life of someone that lived so long ago or in a different place or whatever. So I'm so grateful that I picked up those books, and it kind of got me on a thing of, you know, whenever I find something that's going to be a historical fiction, I'm really excited, you know, because I feel like I'm going to learn something, but then also be entertained at the same time. So that was my pleasure book tag. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me some comments down below. What's some other historical fiction that I should try and find and read, and hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more.